The order today, we decided we're going to start with our true and tested time control person, Lynn Coleman, at the community college. Now, Lynn was at the community college when I was on the board. She looks the same. I have right here. It must be a good place to work. Lynn is going to talk about Howard Community College. And then Jeff is going to, from DPW, take us through demographics, which will lead us into Raphael and talking about the Howard County Public School System operating capital budget. So, Lynn, you're on.
So I'm Lynn Coleman, Vice President of Administration and Finance at the Community College. And just to talk a little bit about the college, to talk about our business model, we're open access institutions, and that means that we have students at varying levels that enter the college at varying levels of readiness. And so some of the students, in order to take college level courses, have to take remedial or developmental courses. Our overall student enrollment is about 29,000. This was from last year, and you can see we have about 14,000 credit, 15,600, almost 700 non-credit, and full-time is about 25%. So the majority of our students, 75% of them, go part-time. Most students are there to get an associate's degree, and that's about 40% of our students, and 30% of them transfer on to another four-year institutions. When you look at the income of our students as well, the majority of them are their income is under $100,000. About 55% of them, their income's actually under $40,000. So you can see, and our average age is about 26 for students. We have students from 104 countries. 49% of the fall credit classes this fall received financial aid. And we look at, even though we have them from other countries, we have varying levels of tuition rates. So if you're an in-county resident, you pay one level, and that's about $161 a credit hour, $4,800 a year. Out of county pays more at 2, 4, that's about $8,800 a year. And then out of state, if you're out of state resident, you would pay about $290, or about close to $8,600 a year. One of the new programs the college is starting with the public schools is Jumpstart. What we were doing is allowing a number of high school students to come to take classes at the college and get college credit for that. And we've been working with the public schools on setting up that program, and you may have seen something in the news about that they are allowed to do that. And that helps them to prepare for college. We had a program, Early College, where for our cybersecurity program, it was at Oakley Mills, and one of the students graduated last year, but now some of them are full-time at the community college. So that's. When we look at our overall student population, we get about 76% from out of state, but 76% of the high school graduates go to other schools, but 24% of the high school graduates come to Howard Community College. And then when you look at total county residents, this is just high school graduates, total county residents, about 42% of county residents are at the community college, and you can see the varying levels where they are at other institutions around the state. Over the last 11 years, we have grown dramatically. You can see on here, since 2006, we had about 5,100 students now. Last year, we ended up with about 7,400 FTEs, and FTE is 30 credit hours. So the state average is about 6%, but we've actually grown 43%. So it's significantly better than the state average. Long-term impact, the Maryland Higher Education Commission actually prepared the projections that the community colleges used. Our enrollment last year was down slightly, but overall they are anticipating that we're going to grow between now and 2027 about 39%. Most of our students who do transfer go to the University of Maryland College Park, Towson, and UMUC. And then if you compare our tuition to other schools around the state, you can see we're at, an in-county resident pays about $4,800, and then the varying levels around the state of what other institutions would charge for a full-time student. To talk about some of the issues in our operating budget that we have coming up in FY19, first of all, our budget funding primarily is tuition and fees at 36%. The Howard County government gives about 29% of our budget. The state's at 15%, and then 20% at other levels. And there's a pie chart sort of showing how that's distributed. Some of our major operating issues we're facing, our adjunct faculty pay rate is lower than it should be around the state. I'll talk a little bit about that later. I have some charts to show that. One of the big things we're facing this year is the sick leave legislation. The legislature had vetoed it. I'm sorry, the governor had vetoed it. The legislature just recently decided to override that veto. But that issue alone is going to cost us about $400,000 next year because we have a large segment of adjuncts and hourly employees that we will now give sick leave to. Our merit increases, I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And another issue that we face is the full-time, part-time ratio. The state guideline says we should be at 50%. But right now, we're currently at 45% full-time faculty. And so we really have been trying to add new faculty each year. To reach the 50-50 ratio next year, we would need to add about 13 faculty. We probably won't put that many in the budget, but we gradually increase that every year, that percentage.
I recall when it was around 20.
Yeah, so it has, we made a big progress on that. So you can see where our adjuncts stand in relation to the other community colleges around the state, and that's why we want to increase their pay. We have a salary and benefits committee, and they have recommended that we give a $45 credit per credit hour increase. That still would not put us where CCBC is right now. So that's one of the things that we continue to work on. And one of the issues, just to note, that Prince George's Community College is in partnership with us at Laurel College Center. Their part-time faculty are getting a lot more than our part-time faculty are working in the same facility. When you look at our raises last year, this is where we were in comparison to the other community colleges around the state. Howard Community College does not give COLA. Everybody's raise is totally based on merit. And so that's, what anybody earns has to be merit-based.
And I started that. Not when we had to take raises away.
And you also started outcomes assessment for the faculty too. That was a big thing. When you look at our average actual salaries around the state, Howard is lower than a number of other schools. We're 8th when it comes to professor, 9th when it comes to associate professor, and then when we look at our assistant professor, we're 6th in the state and 4th. So this is an issue of why we try to make sure we do give merit increases to employees because we are competing with these schools around the state, and that is a major issue for us. So those are some of our major operating budget issues. With the capital budget, last year, we opened our new science and engineering and technology building. This is a 145,000 square foot building. It was about $76,000. We're very happy because all of our funding, all of our funding for capital projects, 50% is required to come from the county, 50% comes from the state. And so this is something we're very proud of that happened. So this is over and done with now, but next year in the FY19 budget, what has happened is now that the science and engineering faculty have moved over into the other building, our nursing labs and our old science and technology area, the labs have to be refurbished. And so we were doing this in a phased renovation. So next year, we will be asking the county for about $9,249,000 for that renovation. And the state would pay a little bit more because last year at the last minute, the state chopped us down a little bit, and so they had to make up for it this year. So that's where we stand. And they have already, when the governor did release his budget, we were funded for the state share. Of course, the legislature still has to pass that. We also have systemic renovations. These are sort of our deferred maintenance renovations that we put in the budget each year. And we have about 7 million of those. And there are a number of small projects throughout the college that we will be doing if we are funded for those. Overall, when you look around the state, even though we've built all these wonderful buildings, we currently have a state deficit. The state has a guideline on how many square feet you should have. And you can see we're number 2 when it comes to the current state's deficit in square footage. And then Howard is still number 2, even looking 10 years out based on. This is our capital budget going forward up until 2028, and as I have previously mentioned, you can see what we're asking for with the county and state. The next building to come online that we would be asking for would be an athletics complex that we were considering going forward. And then we have some more roadway projects out in the future, 2025. A maintenance building and a continuing education building. And every year we are looking at systemic renovations or deferred maintenance. And this is our long-term master plan. You can see where we want to build out our campus. Overall, the college, when you look at the return on investment, every graduate would earn, their earnings will increase by about $12,600 each year. That's about 400 some thousand over a lifetime, and taxpayers are getting a 4.6 return on their investment at the college. One of the things that's going on right now is our Commission on the Future. We started this in 1999 and do it every 5 years. This is where we bring business and community leaders together, and they help us decide plans for the future. In fact, I know some of you in this room were on that commission. And we have started that this fall. We had it this fall, so that's our planning process for our strategic plan for the 5-year period. And that is something that has really helped us a lot over the years. That's how some of in our health sciences building, we had never considered putting physical therapy in there, but that was, and the dental program, and those are some of the things that came from the Commission on the Future when we opened our health science building. Those were new programs that were added based on their recommendation. At the state level, the highest percent of degrees have been granted among community colleges, and that number of degrees has doubled since 2009. We also, the Washington Monthly ranked us number 7 in the nation as far as community colleges or adult learner institutions, so we're very proud of that ranking. We also have a number of other recognitions that we've had around the state. This past year, we got a Baldrige recognition for our customer service and operations. We also have gotten awards for our virtual advising program. We actually had an employee who moved to California, so we're allowing her to advise students in the evening when students normally wouldn't have advising. Our Legacy Arts Award that we received, and then we were ranked 3rd nationally by the Digital Community College Center for Digital Education, and also we got awards for our business programs for National Center for Academic Excellence. And we were very proud when Michelle Obama came to the college. So those are.
Just in line with Valerie. Questions?
Do you have any sense of why the enrollment might have dropped last year a little bit?
Around the state, enrollment has dropped, and actually, if you look at the East Coast, enrollment has dropped at colleges around this, and around the nation on the East Coast. And that, I think some of it is, one of the things with a community college, you find when the economy is tanking, everybody goes back to school, and when the economy starts getting better, people don't go as much. And actually, when you look at our head count, when we're looking at enrollment, we're saying FTEs, but our head count is kind of staying a little flat. People are still going to school, but they're taking fewer credits.
How many, oh, Josh, go ahead.
How large is the adult learner, or they're all adults, but I guess, going back to school or attending school for the first time well after high school?
That's the
Population.
majority. Our average age is 26, so we do have, that's really a large percentage of our population.
How many people in this room, and anyone in the room hasn't been on the campus? Good. Are you serious? You're gonna have Kate.
Yes, we'll invite you out.
One quick question. So no funding for systemics from the state?
No, the state normally doesn't pay for that. One of the things that long-term, the state, the community college presidents had asked the governor is to put in a fund, a revolving fund, where we could get funding every 2 years, but we're waiting for that to pass. So but they do not typically pay for deferred maintenance, but they will if this initiative passes, and then we will fund it every other year for systemic or deferred maintenance.
Because last year, wasn't that the first year you got funding for systemic?
No, they didn't give us any funding last year for systemic. We got funding for other.
No, I mean from the county.
Oh, from the county. No, the county has funded systemic.
It's been in every year?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking the library. I don't think they got it every year.
Go to Steve first.
Sure. Just a question. You talked about the challenges of both, staffing up. You need to have more staff, but you also talked about the salary issue. Is your budget submission, addressing one or the other or both of
We
those
are
challenges?
putting an increase in salaries. The Salary and Benefits Committee had recommended 4.25. We probably will not take it that high, but we are going to ask for an increase over what we've been getting.
Is staffing also in there to try to?
Yes, there
increase
is
that?
staffing for full-time faculty. We've been asked to increase the faculty numbers. Every year we put something in to increase full-time faculty.
Last question.
Yeah,
Go ahead, no, Bruce.
Systemic dropped off, like you spend a fair amount now, and then it dropped off for the future, and I'm sure it's not ending.
No, I think it'll always be.
That's just the way it kind of gets.
Yes.
Okay, last.
Well, it's not a question, it's an observation. I've been an adjunct professor in grad school, and the salaries here are really dismal. They're like a third of what the salaries are for doing adjunct at a graduate school. And last time I thought it was a shortage of all the ones in the MBA programs. It's tough to compete with.
Yes, it is, especially when some of our other community colleges are paying higher rates. So that's why we're trying to boost that up every year.
Okay. We're moving on. Okay. I'll apologize to you. Okay, Jeff, we're going to have, this is, you started about 3 years ago doing this?
I think I've done it with Ray a while.
But we found demographics is the driver of our cost and our revenues to a degree. So it's really, really important, and we thought it was great to place Jeff here and then move on to the public school system where we have that increases significant impact on cost and budget.
Yeah, thank you. So I work for the Department of Planning and Zoning Research Division, and we collect a lot of demographic data and do projections and look at characteristics of the population. So I'm going to talk today about these topics here: population growth, new housing and land use development, and then the characteristics of the population, how the population is changing in terms of racial diversity and foreign-born and aging, and then a little bit on jobs and the economy. So population growth, I think I showed this chart last year as well. As you can see, the county's been growing. In 2010, the last census, the population was 270,000 people. And in 2020, we're expecting it to grow to 336, and we're on track with that if you look at the current population. The population is going to continue to grow, but we're expecting it to sort of taper off based on current zoning and current land use in the county. And so as far as housing, so right now there's about 116,000 housing units in the county. And we're expected, based on our population growth, to about the year 2045, based on current zoning, based on the current general plan for Howard County, that the population is going to grow to about 143,000 people. All of these numbers here, we actually know where the units, the future units are going to be in Howard County.
Can you just use two terms? Is it population or is it units?
Units, I'm sorry. So I meant housing units. This is a housing unit chart. So right now, under construction, there's about 2,800 housing units. And there's 3,200 unbuilt units. What that means is a subdivision that has a recorded lot on it, so their unit could be built but does not yet have a building permit. It also could include a site development plan that's in process, or a lot that an apartment building can go on. The in-process numbers, these are subdivision plans that we have in the pipeline right now in Howard County that are being reviewed. Once those subdivisions are reviewed, those subdivision plans are reviewed, then those lots will be recorded, and then they'll end up in these categories here. The undeveloped land, which is about 9% of the units, that's basically the land that could potentially have units on it based on our current zoning. So if you add all those up, you get to the 143. So that's about 27,700 new homes between now and 2045, based on the current zoning and based on the current general plan. So this is a really telling chart. Currently, about 52% of all the homes in Howard County are single-family detached, and 23% are townhouse units or single-family attached, and 24% are apartments. The growth, we're expecting sort of the flip of that. For the last 10 years or so, we've actually had, or 10, 15 years, about 2/3 of all new development has been single-family detached units, and 1/3 have been apartments and townhomes. The future, we're going to reverse because the land that's left, there's no land left for single-family detached. It's going to be high-density multifamily units, primarily in Columbia, Route 1 corridor, things like that. So in the future units, about 1/3 are single-family detached, 2/3 are going to be apartments and townhomes, half are going to be apartments. So that includes rental and condo units. So there's going to be a fundamental shift in the future development of Howard County moving forward compared to our kind of recent past, or all, entire past. And so in the end, we'll have about, 48% single-family detached by 2045. Overall, at 52% currently, the county has a pretty diverse housing stock, with 52% single-family detached. So, half the units are townhouses and apartments. So for a suburban jurisdiction, that's a pretty diverse housing stock. A lot of that has to do with Columbia, because Columbia has quite a mix of uses over time. So you can see that. And as far as building permits, the pace of building permits, this shows building permits from 2001 to 2017. It goes through September of 2017. These are the numbers of units built per year. So you can see in the 2000s to 2010, we built about 1,500 units per year. And in large part, that's based on the county's APFO, which basically limits how many units can be built per year. The 2000 general plan specified that 1,500 units can be built per year, and we pretty much achieved that. Since 2010, a little higher, about 1,700 units per year. In large part, that, you see these kind of spikes. That's going to happen from time to time because you might have large apartment buildings with these propensity of more multifamily. So you might have a 300-unit apartment building in 1 year, but it may not occur the next year. So you're going to kind of see these spikes.
So is that downtown Columbia, or is that through Metro?
Probably the Metro in there. There's, I think, Savage or Annapolis Junction. That's 416 units. I think that's in the 2475, so that was approved. So that's a big chunk of units. So that's, it would have been 2,000 units, 2,400. There's a property called The Vine, right up to 29. That was a relatively large project. So we've had 2 or 3 of these things coming in 1 year. We'll see that moving forward, primarily because of Columbia. There's a lot planned in downtown Columbia, and these buildings aren't small whenever they get built. So you can see, however, in September through, in 2017 through September, the 9 months of September, we're pretty low. So we're at 1,000 units, so if you kind of prorate that, we're going to be around probably 1,400-1,500 units built last year. We've talked about planning areas, and so this is a planning area map, and we divide the county into Elkridge here, the southeast, which goes from 175 down here, in this area, Columbia, which is, we all know where Columbia is, Ellicott City up in the northern part of the county, and then the rural west part of the county. The rural west is about 60% of the land area of the county, and it is distinguished by no water and sewer, no public water, no public sewer. This is known as the planned service area line. It's been in effect for a long time, since the 1980 general plan. There was a deliberate decision to basically not extend water and sewer west of that line in order to preserve the rural west for agriculture and other environmental preservation. There's a lot of preservation movements in the west. That's been a deliberate decision for Howard County. So most of the growth is going to occur in the east, and I have some projections for that. So this is the planning areas chart. The blue is the existing units on the ground, and then the colors above that are those categories I mentioned before: permit, unbuilt, in-process subdivision plans, and undeveloped lands. So those colors are basically the future units to 2045, that's 27,000 units divided by planning area. Most of the growth will be occurring in Columbia. This kind of, oops. There we go. A lot of buttons here. This red thing here, this red, that's downtown Columbia. So that's kind of the remaining of downtown Columbia. There are some in process downtown Columbia, but that's where a lot of the growth is. Elkridge and Southeast see a lot, because we have a lot of potential on the Route 1 corridor. The Southeast and Route 1 border or are part of the Route 1 corridor, which we define as everything east of 95. So the Route 1 corridor, and we talked about the little layer, is everything east of I-95. So it's stuff right along Route 1, plus some relatively large land areas, in between Route 1 and 95. Yes.
Question on the next slide, you talked about the Columbia, Ellicott City, Elkridge, Southeast. Where would a place like Maple Lawn fall on this bar graph? Because there's a lot of stuff going on out there.
Right, so Maple Lawn is the southeast.
So it'll still be considered southeast?
Yeah, so Maple Lawn is,
I was looking on the map, and I see where Fulton is, and I was like,
yeah.
is that in the green or is that?
That's why it's got the next biggest undeveloped one.
Okay, thanks.
So this is also by planning areas, and this is just the growth. So it's basically the top part of that last chart, but it's divided by unit type. So in Columbia, you can see, 7,700, almost 7,800 units, mostly apartment units. A few townhomes and single-family detached. Columbia, by the way, also includes all of the out parcels in Columbia, so it's not just the Newtown part of Columbia. So there's some places in Columbia where there's still some more single-family detached development potential. You can see the next greatest planning area in terms of growth is Elkridge, followed by the southeast, and then Ellicott City. And again, you can see that most of the projected is going to be apartments and townhomes with relatively small numbers of single-family detached. The rural west, since it's rural zoning, and it's only well and septic, it's generally only single-family detached homes that are built in the rural west. There are some townhouse or condo developments in the rural west that are shared septic, but they're not very many.
No.
There's no plans in the future.
Does this include any of the CCRC or any of the senior stuff that's going on?
So it does include senior units, but in terms of the, oh, you mean Erickson?
Yeah, just like Erickson, any of these places that were changed.
It doesn't include Erickson because that's not approved.
Right. But in theory, it would include something that, like down near Maple and Albert Road, some kind of senior.
Yeah, they would include that. Yeah, any kind of senior units, age-restricted units are included in this.
It's under apartments, basically.
What's that?
You include them under apartments at the end?
Mostly they're apartments or condos. There's a few townhouse senior
So
condos.
assisted living is included.
Assisted living, we actually count as institutional.
Okay.
So for example, next to the Miller Library,
Mhm.
that's the first CC.
Right, that was right.
So that includes apartments and condos, and it actually includes some single-family detached. but it also includes, was that?
We go.
Right, okay, so, right. But we don't, so we wouldn't, I don't know how many nursing home units are there, but we're just a couple.
Life care is not that good.
Okay. We wouldn't count them, that's more institutional. Yeah.
How does Gateway factor in when that gets freed up?
So Gateway, it's all M1 zoning, so we have not included any future residential for Gateway.
So if that became the excuse, it could bump these
We
numbers.
could bump this number up. Yeah. So that, the way the process works is, every 10 years we do a general plan, and if the decision is to rezone, like Gateway, for example, then we would add those units. So it could be potentially that there's, more capacity built over time in the future.
So right now, it's a concept, it's got to move through, like the Columbia downtown plan, it's got to move through and get enacted.
Right. So if I was here 10 years ago, the numbers would not be this big, because 10 years ago, we didn't have the Columbia plan. We didn't have a lot of rezoning on Route 1. So one thing to keep in mind is that, it's a continuous process. And now, given that, there's also the reality of Howard County is running out of land. It's not much land left. So there's sort of I do think growth is going to kind of take on slow, but it's always going to be redevelopment and simplification. So the type of development, I mentioned, higher density mixed use. So downtown Columbia is one of the places where a lot of growth is going to go. That plan was adopted in 2010 and is being implemented now. So the total program is about 6,244 units over and above the current number of units there. 1.25 million square feet of retail, 4.3 million square feet of office, and a 640 room hotel. That's what the calls for and envisions. And that's starting to be realized now. It used to be 5,500 units, but more recently, in fact, late last year, an affordable housing bill was passed. And it added 900 units of affordable housing. So that's a lot more density. The other place where growth is going to occur, as I mentioned before, is the Route 1 corridor. Back in 2000, 3 new zones were created. One's called the Transit Oriented Development, TOD. And that's the example of Annapolis Junction. That's right next to the Savage Mark Station, and that's a 416 unit apartment building that also has CD and office. There's a development in Laurel Park Station that's going to be a TOD, about 1,000 units next to the Mark Station down there. There's some development around the Dorsey Mark Station. The other zoning category is called Corridor Activity Center, or CAC, and that is basically mixed use with apartments and retail and office, sort of close to Route 1 to enhance Route 1 to make it look better. We're finding that the actual ability to build commercial, though, along Route 1 really isn't working. So DPZ, we're going to do a study next year, a Route 1 study to kind of re-look at the zoning for Route 1 and re-look at the market for Route 1 to see what's more appropriate. Over time, the zoning has been changed to allow less commercial. The vision was to have kind of a mix between commercial and housing, and then the zoning was changed because there really is no market for commercial to allow more housing and less commercial. So we're going to kind of relook at that whole thing. One of the concepts is to put housing where there's demand for housing rather than mixed use, and then create little corridors or hubs for commercial if that would work. So we're really going to relook at Route 1 and how the whole thing works.
So part of the problem that to do the mixed use effectively, you've got to have more mass to create both of those things. And when you're just doing a site and you try to do mixed use, you just don't have the mass to create the retail demand.
I think that's part of it. Some of these sites are pretty big, though. I mean, some of these undeveloped parts of Route 1 are pretty big. I just think it's the market. There just doesn't seem to be a demand for these things. Otherwise, they would come. There's been a couple of situations where they've been trying to build a 50,000 square foot retail store, and there's no takers on it. The other thing, Route 1, there's a lot of institutional or industrial warehouse. And it's very valuable to have that warehouse, but it's very important because the rail line in 95. So that's a huge asset really in terms of job diversity, job needs. And a lot of that warehouse space is being sort of redone to office uses for a lot of high-tech firms, like security firms and things like that. They like that nondescript area. So that's the other thing that Route 1 is we'll be looking at that kind of opportunity in the future for Route 1 in terms of that market.
Are you also going to look at traffic flow and traffic patterns along Route 1? Because I think that hurts a lot of the commercial effort
Yeah.
because of the way it's, the traffic is, well, actually fast in a lot of the areas.
It's not, so.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
not, so, okay,
Yeah.
you told me, Joe, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, so that's a good point. I mean, Route 1 is really interesting. I think all the counties along the Route 1 corridor are struggling with how to deal with Route 1. College Park, they're trying to revitalize, or Route 1 Hartford County is trying to revitalize. You know, Route 1 is an old historic road that has, older building facilities, so it's a challenge to revitalize. The other challenge to revitalize is, a lot of these projected units are sort of, the easy stuff in Route 1 has been done. All of the vacant land has been done for the most part. The hard stuff now is assembling of land and businesses willing to sell. There might be some junkyards, for example, but it's a very viable business. So that the owner has no intention to sell that, nor should they if that's. So it's really a long-term plan that as Route 1 develops, the opportunity to come up, we can do that. So there's been a lot of development along Route 1 now, but I think after these major ones that go through, there's really not a lot on the horizon in terms of future residential and commercial, unless you have this land assembly take place. And the county and the state try to, have tax incentives and things like that, and those work for some degree. It's really the private sector that drives it. So I asked some of our GIS people to create this heat map. This is the population growth from 2016 to 2045. And the way our model works, we actually have little, if you look on the map, little dots on the map that represent every single parcel in the county. And every single piece of land that it's either existing use or it's projected. And it's projected by type, whether it's a house, an apartment, a townhouse, or a single family detached, retail, or office. So we project that, and then if you take those projections, you can kind of create this map. The darker, the more color, the red, the yellow, the light is, the higher intensity in the development. So you can see Columbia and Route 1 corridor in the Elkridge area, southeast area, that's where most of the growth is going to go. There will be some growth throughout Cumberland County. This is Fifth Valley, everything up there, but most of it will be Columbia and Route. And Richard mentioned Gateway. I mean, there's ED has been working on concept plans for Gateway, long-term future potential for Gateway redevelopment also. So that could be a future site as well. So more than half the units will be in downtown or the Columbia or Route 1 corridor. And more than half the units will be apartments or condos. So as far as land use, about 35% of the county is residential. 15% is commercial, 10% is undeveloped. That's that small amount of undeveloped land that's left, so we don't have a lot of room for growth. There's more potential for redevelopment or intensification of existing uses. And then open space and parkland and preservation units, that total accounts for about 38% of the land. So almost 40% of all land in Howard County is preserved in terms of either a park or a preservation easements. The preservation easements includes ag pres in the west. It includes environmental preservation easements. So that the easement is where the owner owns the land. It's not owned by a public entity, but there's an easement placed on it that prohibits future subdivision for other types of land uses. So if it's an ag easement, then it has to be used for agricultural purposes, even though it's privately owned. The open space and parkland is county-owned parks, both active and passive parks, natural resource areas. It includes state parks, the Catskill Park up in the north, and it also includes WSSC land, which is along the touch to protect the reservoir for water use there. This is our land use map. So you can see the green colors are the preserved land and parkland. The yellow is developed residential. The purples are industrial. And red is commercial, like retail. And the light yellow is the undeveloped residential land. So you can see there's not much really undeveloped. There's kind of pockets in different areas. And there's other light colors that are undeveloped, just not commercial. As far as the way the population is changing, the population grew by 40,000 people over the last between 2000 and 2010. Of that 40,000, 22,000, more than half are Asian population. The next greatest number is African American growth, followed by Hispanic population. The white non-Hispanic population actually decreased between the two censuses, in 2000 and 2010. That's the first time that's happened. So the county is clearly becoming more diverse. Since 2010 through 2016, the same exact patterns happened. So things are continuing as they have been. So the greatest growth is the Asian population, mostly Korean and Indian from the subcontinent. African American is the second greatest population growth, followed by Hispanics. The non-white Hispanic, some years has been an increase, some years has been a decrease, but overall there's still a net decrease trend happening for that population. This chart shows basically the non-Hispanic white population in 2000, about 73% of county has dropped to 3% in 2016, so it's expected by 2020 to be below 50%, and the county will then be considered a majority minority county, like Montgomery County is that way. A lot of the counties surrounding Howard County are obviously very diverse as well, and Howard County is no exception.
How much does that mirror the country? I mean, I remember back a long time ago going to a demographer in Chicago, and he was talking about that this was a trend that was started 20, 30 years ago that we're seeing.
Right. I mean, it's certainly happening all over the country. This trend is continuing the same way. That's where you're at.
We're not special. I'm just saying, we have a special location in the area,
Right.
but from a national standpoint, we're not all that different.
Right, yeah, I would say that's probably true, depending where you are. Of course, it's like Texas, the big growth is Hispanics, in California, so it's just, but yeah, clearly the U.S. is becoming more diverse and will continue to be that way. So where are people coming from? So their population grows in three ways: natural increase, birth, climate, deaths, domestic migration, people coming into Howard County from other parts of the U.S., and international migration, people coming directly from overseas to Howard County. See that international migration is actually greater than domestic migration. This is a report we did recently. It's on our website. It talks about local domestic migration. It's amazing how much movement there is in Howard County, like all over the country, and this area in particular, given its vibrant economy. There's thousands of people that move to Howard County every year, and thousands that leave. I think in any given week, about 500 people either come or leave in terms of the movement. This is the local or domestic migration. So people seem to love Howard County. So this is the net change. So it's the wider the arrow, the greater the numbers of people coming in. So and this is net. So people are moving from Howard County to PG, to Howard County, but the net increase to Howard County is the greatest there with that large arrow. In Montgomery County, of course, those are very big counties too. And then you can see all the other counties, there's a net in-migration. I think about 10 years ago, you wouldn't see it, there'd be more of the black arrows, like people moving further. Like people used to go from Howard to Carroll, that was kind of the trend. Now Carroll, you can't, there's no
What's the turn?
unit, there's no housing development.
What's the annual turn? I just going back just 20 years, Eckler said there was a 12% turn a year in the county.
Yeah, so I think, so like an average person, the person who buys a house, it's like about, they stay in it for about 12 years before that. But as far as time in Howard County, I'm not sure.
What's the annual figure of the next migration number?
I think it's looking in this. So like 2,000. That's the net per year. So like 2011 to this, there was about 2,000 domestic migrants, net people moving to Howard County.
That would include out of state.
That would include out of state, exactly. Yeah, that would include, right.
So we're one of the 2 or 3 counties with both domestic and international testing credit.
Oh, really?
Every other county in the financial corridor is losing domestic.
That's interesting, yeah. So-
And international makes up the entire, international plus natural, the entire population.
Is that for the state as a whole, do you think? Probably.
State has worked with these people
Domestic.
domestically, but getting them international.
Okay, yeah.
It's only us in Frederick, and maybe like Culver, I mean, in the core, and
And like California, I think it's the same way, where domestically they're busy, but most of the population is up. I'm trying to move through this quickly. Yeah, so, basically, this is shows 20%, 1 out of every 5 people in Howard County is foreign-born. Where are they coming from? Asia, this is coming directly from overseas, in Latin America, followed by Africa, which corresponds to the race chart I showed before. Population is aging, as we know. This is 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 years old by 2030. This is an interesting chart. This is U.S.-wide chart, and if you look from 2010 to 2030, you've got a steep increase of people aging, and that's the baby boomers basically, turning 65 in 2011 or something like that, moving through the cohort. So we're more than halfway through that increase, and then it's expected to slow down. This is a chart showing the percentage of people by age. So you can see, back in 2000, 65 plus was this big, and it's expected to grow that big. So it's going to be impactful on the Howard County and public service. There's a few slides on jobs and economy. EDA will be talking about this, and also Richard will talk about this more so. But this is, I pulled this from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, one measure of job growth. So from 2001 to 2010, there was about 3,000 new jobs per year. We've had a really rapid job growth since 2010. There's about 5,000 jobs per year in Howard County. Our general plan projected 3,000 to continue, but we really had a lot of job growth. And this includes part-time and full-time jobs. That's the way DE measures it. But post-recession, and particularly the last few years, there's been a lot of jobs for Howard County. Unemployment in Howard County is always the lowest in the state, generally. This is from November 17, it's lower than Maryland, more lower than the U.S. And the types of jobs that you expect, professional technical services, is the most number of jobs, followed by retail trade, healthcare, and wholesale. That's the Route 1 corridor and all the factories, the warehouses and industrial there, followed by local government. Most of that is Howard County Public School System. And this is the last slide, these are some of the major employers in Howard County, private sector employers. So Johns Hopkins is at the top, if you all know. Howard County Hospital is especially for Verizon, you see the rest there. A lot of technical, professional service jobs. That's it.
Look, I have one question. And this leads into, and we're going to make sure that we're going to go past 9 o'clock to give our school system enough time. Drivers in terms of new people coming in, changing population relative to the school system. What's driving the increase? We're going to hear next, the increase in numbers, 1,000 a year. Where is that coming from, new homes versus resales?
So we, based on some information from Howard County Public School System, kind of analyzed that. About 60% or 58% of net new students are from resales. And the rest, 42% from new home sales. Which is sort of makes sense if you think about it. If we're building 1,500 houses a year, you are going to get new students from those homes. So 42% of those kids are coming from 1,500, but you have 116,000 existing homes. So you're going to have neighborhoods that turn over. So it makes sense that you're going to have kids from resales as empty nesters.
Do we have any sense of the demographics relative to increased students on apartments and single family versus the larger
Yeah.
condos and whatever?
Yeah, so the school system tracks it very closely. They know exactly how many kids are in each house. And as you expect, the yields in apartments is less than townhouses, which is less than single-family homes. And it depends. They actually track it by school district. So they know the yield and apartment yield in one school district, maybe a 50-unit apartment yield in another school. Like the Metropolitan, for example, low, very low. We've done studies, and we're going to do another study for downtown Columbia. We have it required in the plan, and we've tried to project schools. And we've resolved that issue for now. There's not many kids that have that small, so it really depends on where you're at.
Do you track kind of home sale trends to see what sort of homes are selling, what sort of, are there neighborhoods that we should be concerned with, that the turnover is going to be tough to sell a home there? You know, you see these stories of millennials who want to buy apartments or tiny houses or something like that, you know, that they're not going towards, you know, quarter-acre lots and 3,000 square foot homes that we have in overabundance of in our county.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a demand for all types of homes. I think there's segments, all segments are there's a demand for it. So I think there really is an issue in terms of filling these homes. There may be an issue with affordability in some cases. But one of the things that's happening in this neighborhood turnover of schools is, you know, I think Columbia is very healthy. So Columbia was built in the 60s. So there's a lot of opportunity for these sort of small homes, small lot homes that you didn't even have. So people are moving into, new families are moving into those. That's why you have some schools that are filling back up again in parts of Columbia, and it's all based on resales. So what you're saying with millennials moving in, that's happening. We do track home sales. We have a report that talks about historic home sales by type and prices and regions. So we have more information on our website.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I let Jeff go longer because the numbers and what's driving the numbers and what we're looking is so important to what we have to look at. And it's what the community needs to look at too, not just this group, but when they're proffering different things within the county. As we say to our council members and our executive, it's unintended consequences of what you do now that somebody's going to pay for down the road, or it's going to create some significant problems. So, Phil, proud alumnus.
Well, Jeff, I think that would be a tough act to follow with all the numbers you showed. But thank you for having me. This is new to me, moving to the other side, which is the school system. As we can see, the growth that is happening within the county really does impact the school system a lot. So, I do have here with me our Executive Director of Capital Planning, Bruce Gist, and Renee Kavner, who's two of them are very much involved in capital planning for the school system. So I wanted to be here so they can answer any questions. And Steve, the question you asked regarding this enrollment growth, I know Kavner will be able to probably chime in later as we move on in the presentation. You can see projections for FY 2019 capital project factors are, it's kind of varies. They are very challenging time because all the project estimates are going up, they're rising. Enrollment projections are growing. Of course, the state has equally now factored some of these increasing costs into their formula. So they've increased their square footage from $265 to $302 for renovations, and for new construction from $315 to $360. So, however, our local share has dropped. Yes, I worked for the county for 10 years, so I do understand how that dropped. And I think this committee has really come in to look at what the county has and what they can afford in terms of debt. So why that has dropped, enrollment growth, as we've seen from Jeff, is growing. So,
can I ask, in the last year of county executive development, there was a big payment to the school system from surplus, from pay-go, which we've actually criticized in terms of, as a general process of how the county should work. How much of that is baked into that 22% decrease?
I'm not sure. I've not looked at that detail, but I can tell you the way I've seen the school system operate, they have equally kind of conflicting needs. One, we have agreements, we have huge capital needs, because we have a large schools. We have 70, by July this year, we'll have 77 schools. So that's a lot. I don't know, Bruce, you want to chime in on what that influx of cash was from the county? That was almost 5 years ago now. Yes.
The 23% decrease is a culmination of every cent that was obtained from the county in the last 4 years. Overall, the trend has decreased 22%, including all those pay-go amounts and bonds and transfer tax.
No, that wasn't quite the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The question was that 1 year, where I think it was, I forget the exact number, it was like in excess of 20 million or whatever additional. If that becomes the base, then is that a one-time thing that should be taken out when we look at the base? When we look at the
You're talking about operating.
Yeah, you're talking about
You're not talking about
operating.
capital.
There's two pieces.
Okay.
One is that, I
No,
think the one
we're
you
not
talk
talking.
about, the county provided
MOE,
over maintenance efforts coming to the school, that's the.
that's operating, that's operating.
But you're right,
This is
that
capital.
Really
actually,
just like capital,
yeah,
okay.
that gets into the base, so everything from there is 12%
Got it,
back.
got it,
But
okay.
for CIP, one thing I want to make a point is, the county's overall GO bond authorization, in the previous administration, you know, there's a 3 years, as high as $120 million, versus now each year spending for that is recommending 85 million. And in reality, we issue a little more than 90 million authorized. So the county's overall GO bond authorized has dropped like almost 30%.
So appropriately, we can take responsibility for that. In this room, at least, in terms of our recommendations, because the 120
Yes.
was a problem.
And that's what I was alluding to. So, but on the operating side, I will be looking at that. I will show you
Okay.
how our cost has gone up.
Then I think the other, one of the other things to keep in mind about a school, the school year has been built, but there hasn't been a school built in a long, in like 3 years. Now, the new
Yes.
school's opening in 2018.
Yes.
But it also depends on the timing of when schools are funded too. That
Yes.
sort of goes impact.
So there are quite a few factors. These are the ones really driving. As you can see from the enrollment projections, we are projecting between this next fiscal year, FY19 to FY28, a growth of almost 10,000 new students. So obviously, most of our schools are now overcrowded. So these are conflicting factors for us. So our process, we have the feasibility study that we do to make sure that the long-term range is really looked at holistically from our point and from our capital planning unit, so they review everything for 10 years to make sure that we have all the schools we need, all the enrollment growths are all projected out accurately, and then we have a comprehensive maintenance plan as well. So net enrollment growth, and I think that ties in neatly with what Jeff just presented. You can see from 2014 to 2016, if you look at the first 1 year, you can see between 2014 and 15, the net growth is over 1,000. Just 1 year. So if you look at 2015 and 16, it's close to another 1,000. So slightly under 1,000. So when you look at these numbers, this is our record for the past 10 years. It's been growing, and our projections have been very closely monitored. So this is our countywide enrollment trend from 2008 through 2017. You can see there's an upward trend, approximately close to over 8,000, or approximately 8,000 enrollment within the last 10 years. So this has put a huge strain on our capital planning process.
Can I ask, Bruce may answer this, but when you're building a new school, the classroom size, what are you building, what is that step to in pupils per class?
It equates to the following different scenarios. These are our current recommended capacities. Pre-K is 1 to 20. It's one So these are the ratios, and this can be found publicly. Kindergarten is 1 to 22. Grades 1 and 2, it's 1 to 19. Grades 3, 4, and 5, it's 1 to 25. Grades 6, 7, and 8, I haven't quite figured out how we do this. It's 1 to 20.5. 9, 10, 11, and 12, it's 1 to 25. So we have a different standard for each of the different grades, which we found that these are our ideal standards. We don't always hit them.
But that's what the construction, if you build a classroom, does it allow for excess capacity, or what is the spec?
It's designed for capacity per child per square foot, idealistically, as well as any particular changes that are incorporated into the different ed specs for different educational divisions, elementary, middle, and high requirements based on the board requirements.
So let me cut through it. Would it be 25 for a high school then?
25, yeah.
Okay.
So we do know some of our classes have, due to overcrowding, we're close to 30 for some of our classes. So which means the capacity, I would say.
But we used to be at 32.
Yes.
Back 20 years ago, we had a class at 32 until.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference. There is the staffing ratio as to, I'm a teacher, this is how big my classroom is. And then on the capacity side, there's the board approved, this is what we're aiming for in terms of this is what the capacity of the school. So they're actually two different ratios. You can't, which is not the staffing ratios and the staffing reports that everyone gets in December. That's one set. And then in order to count the capacity for our footprints is this, what Bruce just read. So that's how we calculate our capacity for a 788 seat school. It is some kind of combination of the rates between pre-K, or actually not pre-K, but kindergarten 1, 2, 3. So there's the board approved, which is how we calculate capacity, and then there's the staffing ratios and the staffing books and what we see in our actual classrooms. So there are two separate ratios. So in terms of construction, what we anticipate the capacity of a school is what Bruce just read.
So still on enrollment growth, as we can see from this chart, using 2016 as our base, the actual was over 54,000 students, and for 2017, the growth was 1,137. So we are projecting that by 2024, it's going to increase by over 8,000. So by 2028, almost 12,000 new enrollments. So we will need classrooms.
But the actual student increase?
Yes.
For 60,000?
Yeah. And for countywide actual enrollment versus our first year projections. So you can see our projections tie very neatly with our actuals. So if you look at our error rate, is all of them are less than 2%. If you ask me, I think statistically, that is great, you're spot on. So our projections, historically from 2007 through 17, has been in line with the actuals. So, of course, for elementary school, it's the same thing. We are well aligned with our projections when you look at the actuals. This is middle school, all equally the same. And then when you look at high school, it's the same. Here it looks like our projection was slightly lower, but if you look at it, it's less than 2% error rate. So we've been, for the past 10 years, our projection has been spot on. This is kind of a chart for all the actuals, for all the 6 regions that we have within the school system, for high school, middle school, and elementary school. I do have that chart here, Bruce, so you can distribute that, because we're going to see that our actuals and projections do align. And these are real numbers for the 6 regions that we have, for everybody to take a look at. Of course, take home to digest and see where our calculations and our requests do come from.
What's the accuracy of your long-term projections? Year-by-year projections are pretty easy, but actually the long-term projections can...
That's what I just showed you. The first chart showed you that we are aligned, yes. But this chart, let me go
You
back.
want to go up to the future?
Yes.
Oh, yes, to the future, yes, we have that.
These are 1 year forecasts, which are.
Yes.
I would have to go back and look, but they're about the same, within like 5% in some instances. I can go back and look.
Yes.
We do have that chart somewhere.
So, but yeah, and of course, we fully projected out now to 2028. So when we don't have that grant, we need to see. For our FY 2019 capital budget, our ask is $79.7 million. And of course, the makeup of that is that we are requesting approximately close to $71 million from the county and the others from the state. This is a combination. And one of them is the completion of our Waverly Elementary School renovation and addition, and of course our new elementary school 42, which the county, our board named last week is Hanover Hills. So our new elementary school will be called Hanover Hills. So of course this is the Waverly Elementary School, which is we need about $4 million in this FY 2019 request to complete.
Yeah, that finishes it, right? That
Yes.
finishes Waverly.
Yes, finishes Waverly. And of course, this is the new elementary school number 42, now known as Hanover Hills Elementary School. So, of course, this will be open this year. So we are asking for approximately $8 million to complete it, because they'll have to move in by September of this year when school opens. Tapper Spring, we're looking for approximately $8 million to complete. The start date will be this year. This is for the replacement because the school is getting old and is overcrowded, of course.
You said replacement, was that a tear down and replace, or is that
Yes.
just a renovation?
Correct.
Tear
Yes.
down.
Yes.
What do you do with the students?
We house the students in the existing facility while we build the school and on the parcel adjacent to it.
Okay, so you have enough land.
That's another Long Lake Middle School
Yeah.
scenario.
And we'll build around it.
And so it's scheduled for completion in 2021. So which means the school will be open hopefully in the school year 2021.
And when was that built?
Bruce, do you know the year that was built? I think it's in the 70s. Yeah.
Built in the 70s.
And that's due to capacity?
Yes. Yes.
It
All
was
when we
built
do,
in 1973.
so when we
2 years
do,
old.
when we replace or add addition is for to increase capacity as well. Yes. Of course, we have the new high school, number 13. Of course, we don't know what that is going to be located. However, our projection says we're going to start this year, and
That's if we get some land.
there you go. So our goal is so this is now we have everything ready, but we need a location. And of course, once we get that location, we have to do all the feasibility studies, make sure we do all our homework before we start it. It's built to be opened in 2022. So of course, we don't know if that is still going to be true unless we find the site soon.
How do you, for schools that are being torn down, how do you bring that into your plan? What are you going to do with the excess land or whatever that?
Essentially, we'll do like a land swap out where the existing schools located at, we talked about Talbot Springs.
Right.
That would become the fields, essentially, where the building or the fields are on the site. And
Okay,
we'll
so
move the fields to the
So
other
it's not
location.
excess land?
Pardon?
It's not excess, it's not.
No, I wish it was.
Yeah. So the land is there, so we just move it, so we don't have excess land.
You're looking to build a condo?
Yeah.
So we have the middle school renovation and addition. The renovation of this school will add an additional 97 more seats. So the estimate is about $38.9 million. So this we are requesting $1 million for FY19 budget. Plus we have our systemic renovations. We're hoping that we deferred quite a few of our renovations due to budget constraints. So we're hoping that we need to get back before the schools start falling apart. So we're requesting about $28.7 million for FY19.
Raphael.
Question for you. On the previous one, I'm just curious, is it, I think the committee, we understand this, Dunlogan built 1973, renovate, add, Talbot built 1973, tear down, build. Is it because the county hasn't spent the money to maintain Talbot over the years, so it just got to a point where you can't save it anymore?
We offered the board 4 scenarios, and in fact, I have documents for council members at my feet that I want to deliver this morning for them. 4 scenarios to approach the Talbot Springs renovation project. We offered them a minor renovation, a major renovation. We offered them a tear down and rebuild standard. It would have to be, to state standards, a LEED silver school. And we offered the net zero option for that particular project as well.
What was the range, Bruce?
It was from like $15 million to the cost for a LEED net zero, which was approaching 40. Okay.
But 15 would get you another
minor renovation. The school would get no seats. It would get no seats.
It would get no seats. How many seats are we picking up? I saw that
There'll be, it would be
With
2. Talbot Springs?
Yeah.
It would be a 540 school, so.
We're picking up 100
current
seats
capacity,
now.
it's over 100.
Okay.
It's,
So with renovation
along
to
the lines of
15,
like 153
No
seats
So you can see, of course, the growth.
in this area that needs it.
No, I just,
Yeah.
I have, because you said it was 1973, I just have noticed, okay, this is 1973. And I know we as a county have an issue with maintenance of existing buildings and making sure we're spending those dollars. And I was wondering if that's what happened. It just got too far. But the additional seats is.
So we have roofing projects as well, and in Harper's Choice Middle School, Harpington Elementary School, Longbridge, and Fulton Elementary School. So we are asking for about $12.5 million in FY19. Of course, we have relocatable classrooms due to overcrowding, so we now have portables that we put out there to be able to make sure that our classes are not over capacity. So we use this, so we are asking for a 2.5 to make sure that we can do this. So technology, which of course we know now that everything within our school system is driven by technology. That's the way we try to educate these things. But we equally know that there's a huge budget constraint, so we're asking to see all our needs. However, we are only asking for $2.7 million for technology improvement for FY19.
Bruce, this is a off-the-wall question and just a ballpark, but forget elementary because it's much smaller numbers in terms of seats per class. But if you looked at a high school,
Right.
which you have 25 seats per class, 25.2 seats per class, and if you and I were going to say we're going to build it to 30 seats per class, how much would that actually, because you got so much fixed costs, so how much would that increase your construction cost?
What we ultimately look at is the total enrollment of the building. The board went to a lot of effort and rationalization with the previous board to establish the ideal high school limitations at around 1,600 students. So we work with that and we work backwards, and that equates to a 250,000 square foot typical high school. So our current budget, we have the current high school 13 that we've proposed, which is a standard high school, not a CTE high school or any of that, is really at $125 million. That's using the square foot rate of the state times 250,000 square feet, and that's how we calculate the composition of this, of how much these things cost. Did I answer your question?
Well, you can't, well, you did to the extent if your high school is 1,600 and it's divide that by 25. You work it backwards and then sort of figure, I'm not trying to say what the right size ought to be.
It's about $27,000 dollars per seat.
One of the things I did last year, just in my own head, and I actually pen to pencil, was say, okay, back 20 years ago, when this county executive sat on the council, so he's got as much accountability as anyone, and Courtney was a board member, there was a big push to take it from, I think we were 30 to 32, I'm just stuck with high schools versus all the, and to take it down because we're going to get greater learning. There was no correlation, there was no studies that showed that. It's all feel good, it's going to be better. And all I've been able to find is there's a real correlation when you get down to pre-K to third grade. There's a tremendous correlation between class size. There's no studies that show great correlation beyond that. And so I ran through 32 to 28, not 25, and what did that mean in teachers and in bricks and sticks in terms of budget? It was a huge amount. We can't change and go back, but I'm trying to get some sense of when you look at it per student, you still have to do the same number of students, but the teachers and buildings, getting outside the box, is it the most efficient way to deliver quality learning? Not you're just good. I'm not
There
just.
are the negotiated agreements, and we're talking about academics and our approach to learning, and their interaction with our group is how we get a net product that serves our educational process and what the superintendent is instructed by.
I'm not questioning what you've got. No, I'm looking outside the box beyond what we've got. How do you look different? How do we look differently in getting where we need to be?
More efficient.
We're always looking outside the box. My colleagues in Montgomery County laugh at our high schools because that's the size of a middle school there. And it's the next county over, and they have an outstanding school system as well. The foundational structures are set by our educational curriculum and our negotiated agreements. That's the base, and we tend to build out around that, as well as the prevailing state rates and the prevailing mandates that might or might not be added to our programs. It's a continuous evolution. I mean, last year it wrecked the capital budget when the state increased it mid-year by 14%. We reconfigure everything.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not.
To shed more light on it, we know our class size for high school now is averaging about 26, 27. So it's not the 25 that we're building, because I've seen that data. So yes, it's increasing. Yes, we probably have some schools that are over.
Jeff will help you out there.
Yes. So that are over 30. We have a few schools, and our goal is not to be over 30, because 33 per class in high school is overcrowded. So yes, we're reviewing the data. We know that we can't always have that 25 per class, like the ratios demand. So we are currently over, because I know the average is about 27 right now. For planning and design, we're asking for about $300,000 for us to conduct our feasibility studies and do analysis to determine what our needs are, which is exactly what your question is, Steve, on how do we get here. So we have to do the homework, and so we're asking for some funds to enable us to do that. For our capital improvement program from between 2020 to 2024, you can see it's for FY 2020, we're looking at $122 million. But these are all still, because since this is new, and since I've been at the school system, we're equally looking at this, and the board is aware that this funding level is going to be really, really high, so we're doing everything we can to prioritize our needs more efficiently. So we'll be looking at this, so that this is what we have in the outer years. Now it ranges from $93 million to about $459 million. Okay. We will be looking at these some more.
How much of that's from the county?
Pretty much, it depends on school. The way the state funding goes is not like there's a share. They decide on what they fund. So most of them will say majority will be from the county. Okay. Because all our schools are pretty much owned and built by the county. Okay. So some of those are the schools we're looking at is Oakland Mills. Of course, again, this was built in the 70s, 72. So we are hoping that we'll have enough funding to do the renovation, and because it's pretty much it's been a long time. So the start date was 2015, so we are hoping that the completion will be 2020. So, Ellicott Mills Middle School, we are hoping to add additional 156 seats, and of course we are looking at total cost of $8.4 million to do that. Clarksville Elementary School is an addition as well, which will increase the capacity by 150 seats. New Elementary School 43, sorry. So we are hoping that the start date will be 2020, and I think the data that Jeff showed, this increase in growth will need a new elementary school soon.
Is that Turk Valley?
No, Turk Valley is at 44. 45, sorry. So,
none of these projects are approved.
No.
No funding whatsoever.
No. But we know we need this, so we are hoping that we can start.
So where's 43?
43 is earmarked, and the board can change things at any time.
Right.
It's earmarked for the southeast, to address the population along Route 1 and southeastern California.
So Hamlet High, we want to equally renovate Hamlet High, renovation and addition. So it's a cost of almost $98 million. In this new elementary school 44, which is the one Bruce just mentioned, southeast.
Oh, that's Columbia.
Columbia West.
Columbia West, okay. All right. Then we have middle high school career development. So we're hoping that this is basically replacing the aging, these are ARL building, yeah, because we have the ARL building along Route 108. It's aging, so we're hoping that we can start planning to renovate that as well. And our long-range systemic renovation for 2019 to 2020, you can see we're looking for FY19, $28 million, which is systemic, and the long-range ranges between 45 to $56 million. So the master plan, the long-range master plan, which takes us to 2028, total cost right now is $1.3 billion. So we know, which will include the new elementary school number 45 in Top Valley. So all of these, obviously, we're going to be looking at again to make sure that we prioritize what we believe is affordable and based on the needs of our enrollments. Long-range master plan, basically these are all the details on the previous slide that shows the details of all of the plan. So for the state, capital request for 2019 includes Harper Choice, Affordability Elementary School, Long Ridge High School, Fulton Elementary School, you can see the roof, Glenwood Middle School, Tapper Spring, because the state will be putting some money for that. And of course, the new high school, number 13, once we have a location. So the FY 2019 capital budget dates are, of course, the public hearing was September 19th, 2017. From the
Director, a
board.
quick question. Are you going to get state funding for planning on the high school?
It's just planning.
Or are you looking in the outer years? Are you just applying for construction?
Permission.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's just planning. The funding will come in a future year.
Right, so you're not applying for funds for planning?
We show them how much funds we'll need in the future, but right now we're just asking for them to approve our planning of the project so that in the future years we can actually request funding.
So they have to approve before we move forward. So, and of course, for 2017 council review, and I think Craig Glendenny has asked questions regarding these. So on February 22nd this year will be the adoption of the requested capital budget, and there will be a public hearing April 24th, and then another work session April 26th, and the board will complete the final adoption of the capital budget on May 31st. If there's any questions on capital, we can go back and
Just real quick, within the context of that timeframe, when do you get from the county what they're going to provide? Doesn't that go back into what the board finally approves?
yes, that's why the final adoption is in May. So we'll be submitting our request officially to the county in April. And of course, during that process, we'll have work sessions here. I didn't put that on here because we don't have those dates. There'll be work sessions where we come and defend our request. Yes. Once the county approves it, so that whatever the funding is what our board will be approving, adopting as our capital budget.
Quick question, with some of the issues surrounding acquiring land for 13, has there been any thought to put a little more firepower to accelerate the Hammond High renovation, or has that not been considered yet?
We are considering everything, so again, it's competing needs.
Sure.
So yes, we're looking at it. I think I was at some of the board meetings where that came up. I've been at some of the community meetings as well, where Hammond came march to advocate for that project to be included. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we prioritize based on need.
Yes, just one.
Hey, Rick. I just wanted to add to Craig's question about planning for a state, and maybe you can chime in, Bruce. I think it's important to know that the state right now is not approving planning for any future projects. So that will require us, if we want to move forward and complete at the times that are on those schedules, that we'll need more county funding in advance of that, and hoping that the state will then participate in future years and we'll recoup that. So even though we're asking for planning dollars, planning approval, we may not get any dollars next year or the following from the state.
So the county's going to forward fund, well, they have to.
They would have to if our schedule was going to stay on.
Right, well, the county has the 100% fund planning anyway. The state doesn't contribute towards planning.
All right.
No, I'm just talking about the whole project.
The
in
whole
general.
project.
Yeah.
So now moving on to the operating budget. I tried to make this quick because I know our schedule is tight for everyone. Basically, HCPSS students are performing both state and national peers on SAT and ACT. Due to students' achievement and our top-notch staff, families are drawn to HCPSS, which Jeff alluded to. So we have an influx of folks moving into Howard County. As we strongly believe that one of those attractions is our public school system. So people can come in and be able to put their kids in our school system. Our proposal for our 2019 operating budget is guided on our strategic call to action, which is learning and leading with equity, So as Lieutenant has making this charge, make sure that we all focus on making sure that our needs are prioritized to where those based on equity. So our FY19 budget reflects is impacted by several factors. One, the rapid enrollment growth, our pre-K program cost, which is a huge impact on us. Of course, honoring our negotiated agreements, other staff, nurses, social workers, and other student support, because we know that the support system that our teachers need is lacking, so we're trying to make sure that we try to support them as much as we can. Of course, the big looming issue we have in the school system is our health fund deficit, which is projected to grow as high as $50.5 billion at the end of this fiscal year. And so I've been working with Harley and my team at the county trying to make sure that...
Can you just quickly help this committee understand how did that deficit develop? We know there's a deficit. Can you talk about so we understand how it developed?
Okay. These factors are mainly the drivers. One, enrollment growth. The $17.1 million for pre-K was not funded by the state, either was it funded by the county. So if that is an annual cost, which before, I think for FY 1917, it used to be between $12 and $13 million. So that's a huge strain on it. So what has happened, based on the data I've been able to look at, was because it wasn't, most of these costs were not funded, the health fund was not fully funded at the level that it should have been. So the way our health program works is that most of the employees pay approximately 15%, and the school system pays 85%. Dating back to 2006-07, the school system have not been funding that 85%. Because they needed to meet all of these goals.
They like the state does, not unusual. The state does. They took money from one place to put it somewhere else.
Yes, you can. So and that's that has now come, because when you've been doing that, has been going. Yes, it captures that. So last year was really where that huge deficit began to show. Because if you go back to 2006 and 07. The health fund has a very healthy fund balance of over $20 million. So all of that, so if you look at it, if you look at the deficit, it's pretty much almost $70 million swing, because nothing was done. So our goal now is how do we make sure that the structural deficit is addressed. Unfortunately for us, most of those the plans have to be negotiated with our bargaining units. So we are working through with them now to see how they can come to the table to address this structural deficit. Because we acknowledge that the county did not create this huge problem that we have for us. However, we equally know that pre-K is one of the programs that the county lacks, but it wasn't funded. The state or the county. So that has put a huge stress. So we're finding ways to see how we can address all of these needs.
Thank you.
Of course, we know implementing new program is going to be challenging. So we are trying to look at the way to resolve the structural issues, while at the same time making sure that we remain one of the best school systems in the state and the country. In order to do that, we just can't remain stagnant to say, oh yes, our first goal is to pay down the deficit. And guess what? All other counties will catch up with us, and we strongly believe that if that happens, trying to get back will be a huge task. So we're trying to balance how we enhance all of these while not impacting our learning. And of course, I think Lynn mentioned the Jump Start program, which is a new initiative to make sure that we try to get our students to enjoy how college feels like. and of course to get those credits that they need. So of course we're prioritizing our nutritional value and our infrastructure needs. So we've reorganized our safety and security risk management to put them under one umbrella, so we know how we are managing. We're trying to create more efficiency and more effectiveness in our operations. So we only have some programs that we've embarked upon this current year, and we do believe that FY19 will show some savings. One of them is the partnership with all of the programs. We have a program that is very effective, Brainstorm, where our staff, employees can come in and tell us what they believe is not working properly, and then we've tried to implement some of that, and we've derived some savings from that as well. We continue to reorganize our central office. We've done that now. I think the structure is more level. We're trying to make sure we find efficiencies. So for our FY 2019 budget, you're going to see there will be some savings from the central office. So our goal is to reduce the staffing we have in central office. Why not destroying our efficiency? Because our goal is that we are here to teach our students. So we want to put more to the classroom and less to central office. So our funding sources, of course, we have the county, we have state, and others. So our ask this year is approximately $850.7 million. So that includes 69% from the county, and of course the state is 28.6%. So pretty much the county is our biggest funding source. So the changes between FY18 and FY19, which were requested, from FY18, we requested, the county gave us $572.9 million. For next fiscal year, we are asking for $594.5 million. Of course, for the state, the county, that is an increase of about $21.6 million over last year. And of that, 10.2 is the MOE.
How much of this is the MOE?
10.2.
So it's another 9.
Yes. So actually 11. 11.4 is over MOE. Yes. So we are hoping that the changes is needed, because this has been a challenge for the school system. It's been a challenge for me being new and trying to make sure that people understand that the money doesn't exist everywhere. The county doesn't have that endless pot of money that we can tap into. However, to remain as efficient as we can possibly be, we believe this will be efficient and sustainable for all. Of course, our other sources are fees for use of school facilities, which we charge for folks who come to our schools, investment interest, summer school tuition, admission receipts to our student performances and athletic events, and federal funding. And of course, we have some other minor appropriation from other sources. So, you can see here's the MOE, it's 10.2, and of course, the funding over MOE is the 11.4 that I mentioned in the previous slides. So, we strongly believe that to remain at the level of excellence that we've come to be known for, this doesn't meet all our needs as we would like, but it does address to keep us at the level where we are not falling behind. So what is our expenditure areas? So 60%, which is $679 million, or $680 million approximately, is devoted to instructions. So we demonstrate that our goal is towards the student. So we're spending, the bulk of our money is going towards the classroom. And of course, 5%, which is about $41 million, towards transportation, which transports our students to the class, to the schools. And then 11%, about $94.6 million goes to our facilities, operations and maintenance, which we know is not enough. And so, but we are going to try to do the best we can to make sure that our facilities are well maintained. And then, of course, our central office administration and support accounts for 4%, which is about $34.3 million. And what are the major cost drivers? So you can see special ed is one. So there's an increase of $3.2 million, which is going to increase additional staff of 68.1 for special ed. And then, of course, based on enrollment growth and staffing needs, there's another increase of 4.7, which would lead to about 69.5 new staff. Of course, position to maintain high quality organization is about 11. So, and of course, increase in safety and environmental needs. And as you all are aware, we've had all of these the mold issues, and also we're trying to make sure we mitigate that. It shouldn't be the news. We're a school system. We should be more efficient and effective about maintaining our schools. So we're doing everything we can to make sure we do that. However, to offset some of that, we have some savings, reassignment of positions from central office. So we are looking at moving approximately 47 positions from central office. Some of them, most of them will be, some of them are certified. They have to go back to the classroom. And then, of course, I'm sure there will be some that will lead to some job reduction. So we try to do everything we can to demonstrate, not just to our constituents, but equally to the county and to this group, that we're doing everything we can to get the school system back on the fiscally responsible footing. So investing in our staff.
So math right, is that 300,000 for FTE? We're not getting my math wrong.
Which one?
I got my math wrong. 31.6 million.
Yeah, 105.
Oh, yes, yeah, $31.6 million. That's the net change. And the FTE is 105, yes. It's not going to be, it doesn't equate to, because you can see ARL, we have a job start, we have the ARL, EVAC and agricultural, etc. So the cost there is not just FTEs. That's why if you can see, there are some that don't have FTEs. So if you divide that by the total FTEs, you won't get the right number. Because some are not FTEs, they are startup cost. That's what we included here. So the FTEs, you can see, is right there on that column.
The FTEs are positions.
Yeah, they're positions, so, but the others are not. There are quite a few that are not. So like the 1.2, technologies, 3.8, utilities for the Hanover Hills is not. So if you add that, so yes.
It's taking $300,000 per FTE incremental in this budget to launch that next new FTE is $300,000.
So they have other components like, salary for benefits, benefit for all existing employees there.
You see, based on negotiated agreements, so you have $17 million. That's really what's driving this number. So of the 31, 17 of that is for benefits and employee.
What's the average compensation for a new FTE?
I would say approximately we're looking at about $60,000 average.
Yeah, it's like the number up there is probably like 54,000.
Yes.
If you take
Plus
the
benefits or just?
if you take the categories that have FTE increases, subtract
You're
out
looking
the
at
4, you get about $5.7 million for
Yes.
106 FTEs.
The 60,000 I gave is including benefits.
Yeah.
So that's our average.
Thank you. Thank you.
So of course, investing in our staff, benefits is 19.3%, and you can see salaries and wages is 66%. So of the budget, only 14% is really for others. So if we are going to say we're going to do some cutting and reducing the cost quickly, we only have about 14% that we can really look at. So of course, our schedule, we made a presentation to our board, so the superintendent has submitted his request to the board on January 9th. There's going to be a public hearing on the 30th. Work session, we have 4 work sessions, February 1st, 6th, 13th, and 15th. And of course, There will be a public hearing as well on the 13th, February 13th, with the adoption of the BOE request on February 22nd, which we then will send our budget request to the county. And of course, when it comes back from the county after all the process, it will be finally adopted on May 31st. That's the presentation. Thank you all. Any more questions?
Mr. Raphael, on the renegotiated early retirement plans, how many are we talking about? How many retirements are you trying to renegotiate?
We have total savings of about 700,000 projected. I don't know the total number by offhand. I have, thank you. So we don't have that number.
So how many people took advantage of that early retirement?
I don't have that offhand. Apologies. I don't have that readily available.
It was just over 100, I think.
The state has, had this Kerwin Commission, and their report has been starting to come out. And I think that there's the potential for counties that are doing so well as Howard County to actually lose some money going forward. Has the school board been looking at that and taking the Kerwin Commission's possible recommendations into account?
Well, they have. That's a quick answer to your question. Yes, they have. But of course, with all the needs we have, most of them are, as you can see, are mainly salaries. And you have these the bargaining units that we have to negotiate with. So we just can't go in and say we're doing this. We have to negotiate with them. So that puts a huge strain on what we can do immediately. However, we are looking at everything, and I'm happy to board one of the board hearings where something came up that was subject for conversation. The board had a very spirited conversation and faced with the reality that the budgetary constraints are huge, and with the deficit that we currently have, we have to equally be cognizant of that fact. And how are we going to address that while trying to do everything else?
Quick question regarding sort of the P3 concepts, which is obviously new. We've got an effective program going with the courthouse. Looking at slide 10, there's $2.3 million in restoration, deferred equipment maintenance, and grounds projects. Has the public school system looked at and explored P3 opportunities for some of the new construction projects?
Not recently. Not recently. We did consider that option about 5 or 6 years ago.
And the key to that too is that most of the funding is coming from the county. So if we are going to get into any agreement like a P3, we need the county's buy-in, which of course will have to come to this group.
Yeah, I think didn't we find out last year that with the P3, if it involves state or even federal funding, there'd be a bunch of things that would kick in that would actually make it less cost effective to do.
You have to pay Davis bacon wage for school.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bacon actually comes into play there. But we don't have it. So first of all, Randy, thank you. I've done this is the 4th year. That was the best, most effective presentation we've had in the last 4 years.
Thanks to the team.
I think this is an important, this is a lot of information, but it's our biggest challenge in funding for the county, not for us. Remember, I always say this with public school, with the college here, and any other people receiving funds. All our charge is tell the county executive and the council what is available to spend. Not where to spend it, but what you have to spend. That's one, and what you can borrow. I was talking with Bruce beforehand, the challenges, and the challenge for whoever's doing this next year is even going to be greater if the structural deficit is anywhere near what I've been reading and hearing down in Annapolis, because that'll flow right back at us. So it's a challenge, and the only places to go, the one thing that keeps striking me is, everybody does, I talk about unintended consequences, so when AFCO was set up and all the different things, it was like, here's a simple world. that we build new houses and it's going to equate to schools and we need to tie it to roads and facilities. Makes sense, but that's not the way the metrics are driving the school growth. And so we're going through a lot of machinations that, they're politics. The machinations that will ultimately, the unintended consequences will drive down revenues in the county. And the only place to get money for the school system and everything else then is to increase taxes or to borrow more. And some people may say, well, let's borrow more. But we know that that impacts our debt service, and rates are going up, but that impacts our debt service, which impacts the operating budgets and puts more pressure on the operating budget relative to education and other social needs. So there's a lot of challenges that we have to face and figure out how do we certainly tried last year, but to be more effectively communicate to the total population as well as to our political leaders of the importance of the decisions they make, the importance of the long term, and the importance of communicating honestly with the citizens relative to the impact of things that we do. It can't be short term because you're not going to be here in 4 years, or you're not going to be here in 8 years. We have to be, if anything that we can communicate to our elected officials, that they need to think of themselves as trustees versus politically elected people, and because true leadership is doing what's best in the long run versus what's expedient for the moment. And somehow we have to look at these things and we'll come up with our recommendations, and how we articulate them and how we communicate them is going to be important, because you all have a challenge, the college has a challenge, the social needs in the county has a challenge, and the county has a challenge because they have a bank account and they only have so much to spend. So figuring that all out will be a challenging year for us. Okay? Next week, I didn't look, it was at 7 o'clock, great hour. Okay, so we'll see you all at 7 a.m. We'll try to get out a quick summary of what we have. Very good meeting. Can I ask Raul,
Good, how are you?
Pretty quick.